10 avril 1941. Dans la foulée de l'invasion de la Yougoslavie par les forces de l'Axe, Ante Pavelić, fondateur du mouvement des Oustachis, devient le dirigeant de l'État indépendant de Croatie, mis en place par les Allemands et les Italiens.
Braćo, Ustaše, danas su oni, luđaci, danas su oni, malodušnici, danas su oni, tuđi plaćenici, a mi smo nezavisna država Hrvatska.
Cet État englobait alors la majeure partie de la Croatie, de la Bosnie-Herzégovine ainsi que la région de Sirmia, une petite partie de la Serbie actuelle. Allié de l'Allemagne nazie pendant la Seconde Guerre mondiale, le régime des Oustachis est un mouvement nationaliste croate d'idéologie fasciste. Dès son arrivée au pouvoir, Ante Pavelić revendique la constitution d'une grande Croatie, ethniquement pure, et met en place un ensemble de lois racistes et xénophobes. De 1941 à 1945, afin d'isoler et d'assassiner des Serbes, des Juifs, des Tziganes ainsi que des opposants politiques, les autorités Oustachis établirent de nombreux camps de concentration, dont le complexe de Jasenovac.
Jasenovac camp was established in August 1941. It was the biggest concentration camp on territory of independent state of Croatia during the Second World War in the period between 1941 and 1945. So when Oustachis came to power in Croatia in April 1941, so this independent state of Croatia was established as an ally country of the Nazi Germany and fascist Italy. Very soon, racial laws were declared in that country, which were against Jews and Roma people, and also in the ideology of the Oustachis movement, they considered Serbs as their main enemies. So these three ethnical groups were discriminated and arrested and deported to the camp. And also political prisoners, so Croats, Bosnian Muslims who opposed to this Oustachis regime were also arrested and deported to the camp.
Surnommé le Auschwitz des Balkans, le camp de Jasenovac est situé au confluent des rivières Una et Save, à 120 km au sud-est de Zagreb. Cette localisation n'a pas été choisie au hasard.
The reason why the biggest camp was established here in the area of the village Jasenovac was that this area was surrounded with rivers and swamps, so it was more easier to Oustachis guard to keep this area under control. It was more difficult for the prisoners to escape from the camp. Also, second reason, there is a section of railway that goes to the village, so it was possible to deport prisoners very close to the entrance of the camp. And third reason was that before Second World War, local family from the village, Bačić family, had some industry buildings in this area. So Oustachis presented this as a labor camp to the public, but the reality was something completely different, that majority of the people who were arrested and deported to the camp were also executed in the area of the Jasenovac camp.
Troisième plus grand camp de concentration d'Europe, Jasenovac est un vaste complexe de la mort constitué de 5 camps. Les deux premiers sites, Krapier et Brocica, ont commencé à fonctionner à la fin du mois d'août 1941. Les premiers groupes de Serbes et de Juifs y sont déportés. Cependant, les camps 1 et 2 furent inondés par une crue à l'automne 1941, ce qui entraîna leur abandon et au transfert de leurs détenus vers les camps 3, 4 et 5 à la mi-novembre 1941, à l'exception des malades et des invalides qui sont exécutés sur place.
And connected also with this main camp, Jasenovac, is the site just across the river Sava, which is now on territory of Bosnia and Herzegovina, called Donja Gradina. And this is basically the killing fields of the camp. So the prisoners were deported on the other side of the river. So this is the place where most of the executions took place.
Le camp de Jasenovac a été construit sous le modèle allemand après la visite en 1941 de celui de Sachsenhausen près de Berlin en Allemagne. Géré directement par les miliciens Oustachis et non pas par les nazis, les conditions de détention au camp de Jasenovac étaient épouvantables.
Jasenovac camp was the site where there was forced labor of the prisoners in the factories that were also inside the camp. Also, what we know from the testimonies of the survivors, there was not much food inside the camp, and that was also a way of torturing prisoners by forcing them into this hard labor and not giving them enough food. So this is also the reason why diseases spread among the prisoners in the camp.
Egon Berger, un survivant du camp de Jasenovac, écrit « Au début, les détenus avaient encore une certaine fierté. Certains refusaient de montrer qu'ils cherchaient à être les premiers servis ou les derniers si la soupe était épaisse. C'est en ces moments-là que les hommes révèlent leur caractère. Mais plus tard, quand la faim est devenue insupportable, nous n'étions plus des êtres humains. L'indifférence signifiait une mort rapide. En raison de la destruction de nombreux documents, il est difficile d'établir précisément le nombre de victimes du camp de Jasenovac. On estime toutefois que plusieurs milliers de personnes furent assassinées entre la création du camp en 1941 et son évacuation en avril 1945.
The issue of the number of how many people died in Jasenovac camp was often politicized in the past, and that was the reason why Jasenovac Memorial Site in 2005 made a decision to start working on a victims list. So we started working from one of the lists that was made in the 1960s by the Federal Bureau of Statistics of Yugoslavia, and in that list there were the names of the 59,000 victims. And through the research in the archives in Croatia, Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, through the also research in different museums, contacts with survivors and families of the victims, and also trying to find out as many as possible local lists of victims for any particular towns and municipalities. So far in victims list that is also available on our website, we have the names and informations for a little bit more than 83,000 names of the victims. So most of them, they were Serbs, more than 47,000. About 16,000 Roma prisoners were killed, 13,000 Jewish prisoners, about 4,000 Croats, about 1,000 Bosnian Muslims, and in lower numbers members of the other ethnic groups. And we also have to emphasize that original documentations from the Jasenovac camp was destroyed by the Oustachis on two occasions, once in 1943 and the second time at the end of the war in 1945. So it's difficult to find the original documentation from the camp. And we also know that this number is not a total number. It's just impossible to find all the names of the victims. So the number is probably a little bit higher than this 83,000 that we have currently in our victims list. So the research is still going on, and hopefully we can make it as accurate as it possible.
Le camp de Jasenovac est considéré comme le camp de concentration le plus monstrueux de la Deuxième Guerre mondiale. Des témoins racontent comment les prisonniers étaient tués par épuisement au travail, faim, pendaison, comment des groupes entiers étaient massacrés à coups de masse sur la tête, ou égorgés par un poignard incurvé, mis au point par les bourreaux Oustachis. En 1942, au moment de la solution finale nazie, un four crématoire en briques a été construit par l'un des commandants du camp, Dominique Pizzili.
The difference between this Jasenovac camp that was operated by the Oustachis government and the camps that existed in the Nazi Germany was the fact that there were no gas chambers in Jasenovac camp. So Jasenovac camp was a very brutal place, and a lot of these executions happened with cold weapons, with knives and hammers. So it was a very brutal and bloody place. Most of the mass graves are now just across the river from Jasenovac's memorial site, which is now on territory of Bosnia and Herzegovina, around the village of Donja Gradina. And we know for more than 120 mass graves on that part of the camp, and this is the place where most of the executions happened. So prisoners were deported from one side of the river to the other, and among the prisoners were groups of so-called grave diggers, and their job was to prepare already those mass graves at the site on the other side of the river. So when prisoners were taken to the other side, this is where executions took place, and bodies of the prisoners that were killed were thrown into those mass graves. Second largest site where also we have a large number of the mass graves is the site of the village of Oustachis, where a camp for the Roma was established in 1942, and we know for at least 21 mass graves that are on that site as well.
Au début du mois de mai de 1945, les partisans yougoslaves, commandés par le dirigeant communiste Tito, s'emparent de Jasenovac.
Well, the last days of the camp were in April 1941, on the 21st and 22nd April. So on the 21st April 1945, the last remaining group of women, about 600 that were still in the camp, were killed, and the men knew what happened, and they knew that the end of the war is coming, and they expected that the same destiny is awaiting them as well. So on the last counting of the prisoners, on the night of 21st April 1945, there were still 1,073 men inside the camp. And during that night, from 21st to 22nd April, about 600 men who were still strong enough, healthy enough, they decided to organize themselves and try to escape from the camp. So in the morning of the 22nd April, the group of these 600 men broke to the door of the building they were put in, and they started running towards the gates of the camp. And also the whole camp was surrounded with a wall, and there were the guard posts with Oustachis guards on that wall. So when they saw this large group of men trying to escape, they started shooting, they opened fire, and out of these 600 men, 91 managed to escape and survive. And also in the center of the village, Jasenovac, there was one smaller part of the camp. There was about 150 prisoners there, and they heard shooting from the main camp, and they didn't know exactly what was happening, but they assumed it was some kind of a breakout attempt. And in the evening of the same day, 22nd April, they also tried to escape from this part of the camp. And the whole village was surrounded with bunkers, with barbed wire, so it was difficult to escape. So out of this group of about 150 prisoners, 12 managed to escape and survive. So this is the reason why this date, 22nd April, is chosen of the date of the annual commemorations that happen here in Jasenovac. As for the Oustachis, they tried to destroy the evidence of the camp, so they put bombs and mines in the buildings of the camp, and before they retreated from Jasenovac, basically they destroyed the camp itself, and the camp was mostly destroyed at the end of the war.
Le camp de Jasenovac fut incendié le 24 avril 1945, peu avant sa libération par les troupes de Tito. Les bourreaux du camp ont tenté de fuir, mais l'histoire les a rattrapés.
As for some of the commanders of the camp, they tried to escape from the country and find some kind of refuge in some other country. The man that was most responsible for these mass killings in the camp for the Holocaust and the genocide, called Vjekoslav Luburić, he was a commander of all camps on territory of independent state of Croatia. So he managed to escape from the country and he ended up in Spain. And he lived there until 1960s, and in 1969 he was killed by the Yugoslav Secret Service. As for some of the other commanders like Ljubo Miloš or Ante Vrban, they were in camp for the prisoners of war outside of Yugoslavia, and in 1947 they had the plan to return back to the country. At the time it was Yugoslavia, and to start a guerrilla fight against the new government. But Yugoslav Secret Service very soon found out about the plan, and Miloš and Vrban and also their people also who were part of this group were arrested in 1947, and in 1948 there was a trial for all those members of the Oustachis movement that returned back to the country. And for example, Miloš and Vrban were sentenced to the death penalty, as also the most of the members of that group. So also some of these officers from the camp were caught immediately after the war in 1945, and also they were trialed and they received a death sentence.